The stars were quiet that night. Ethan sat on the old wooden bench behind his house, staring up at the sky. He had done this every night for 10 years. And every night, he waited for anything to return. No one believed his story. Not the school, not his parents, not even the scientists who came to investigate the strange burn marks in the forest. He was just 13 then, when he saw her for the first time. An alien girl, glowing faintly, with long blue hair like flowing water. She was injured, scared, and running from something that wanted her dead. He helped her, hid her, talked to her, even though she barely spoke his language. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, but also the loneliest. She called herself Saralin, just Saralin. And then, the next morning, she was gone. No note. No goodbye. Nothing. But Ethan never forgot. Now he was 23. The world had moved on. He had a job at the spaceport as a maintenance tech. He lived alone, kept to himself. No one could understand the hole in his heart, a memory that felt more real than anything else in his life. Tonight felt ... different. The air was colder. The wind sharper. The stars above twinkled with strange energy. Ethan stood slowly, looking toward the distant forest. A low hum buzzed in his ears, faint but steady. He turned toward it and froze. There, above the trees, a strange light hovered. Not a plane, not a drone. It pulsed in a rhythm like a heartbeat. His heartbeat, he ran. Leaves crunched under his boots as he entered the woods. Everything felt just like that night 10 years ago. The same trail, the same cold, the same whisper. In the air, as he reached the clearing where it all began, the light lowered. It was a ship, sleek silver, with markings that glowed blue like veins. It landed without sound. The hum stopped. A door slid open, and from the shadows, a figure stepped out. Ethan's. Breath caught in his chest. She hadn't aged a day. Her long blue hair flowed like silk. Her skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes, those deep violet eyes, locked onto his. She stepped forward, slow, unsure. "Ethan," she said softly. His knees nearly gave out. You're real," he whispered. She nodded. Always was. For a long moment, neither moved. The night was silent, except for the soft whir of the ship behind her. "Why now?" he asked, his voice shaking. Saralin looked down, then back at him. "Because it's safe. For now, and because I made a promise." Ethan's mind raced. "You disappeared. I searched for years. They all said I imagined you." "I had to leave," she said, stepping closer. "They were tracking me. I didn't want you to get hurt." "Why come back?" Saralin looked into his eyes with something heavy regret or longing. "It's because what we had. It wasn't just a moment. It was something more. Something I couldn't forget, no matter how far I went." She raised her hand. He flinched, then relaxed as her fingers gently touched his cheek. Her skin was warm, like a memory brought to life. Suddenly, the ship behind her beeped an urgent alarm. She pulled away. "We don't have much time." "Time for what?" "They found me again." "Who?" Saralin looked back, eyes glowing slightly. "My people and theirs. The ones who don't want us to be together. The ones who believe our kind should never meet yours." Ethan's heart pounded. "So why risk coming back?" Her voice dropped. "'Cause I need you. I need your help." Before he could respond, something in the sky roared. 3 black ships broke through the clouds, moving fast, lights flashing red. Saralin grabbed his arm. "We have to run." "Run where?" She looked at him, her voice trembling. "Anywhere you'll go with me." In that moment, with the wind howling and enemy ships closing in, Ethan made his choice. He reached for her hand. Then, let's go. They ran into the shadows of the trees, chased by enemies from another world, and a past that refused to stay buried. But Ethan didn't look back, because she had returned. And this time, he wouldn't let her go. Ethan ran through the forest with Saralin at his side, branches whipping against his arms. Behind them, the sound of the enemy ships grew louder, deep, thrumming engines cutting through the air like thunder. But Saralin knew the woods better than he did. Or maybe she just remembered from 10 years ago. She weaved between trees, her steps quick and silent, her glowing hair trailing behind like a comet's tail. Ethan followed, heart pounding in his chest, lungs burning. Finally, they slid down a slope and crawled into a narrow cave hidden behind thick roots and rock. Inside, it was cold and quiet. The sound of the ships faded above them. Saralin pressed a small silver device to the cave wall. Instantly, a soft blue shimmer spread over the entrance, some kind of cloaking field. Ethan looked at her, still catching his breath. What was that? Camouflage, she said, brushing her hair out of her face. It won't last forever, but it should give us a few hours. Ethan leaned against the cave wall. They followed you all the way here. They always follow, she said quietly. Ever since I escaped the first time. He studied her face. She looked just like he remembered, but her eyes were harder now. There was something behind them. Pain, guilt. You left without saying goodbye, he said softly. She didn't look at him. I thought you'd forget me. That it was better that way. I didn't. Saralin turned to face him. I know. Silence filled the space between them. Outside, a strange light flickered across the night sky. The enemy ships were scanning the ground, hunting. Ethan's voice dropped. What do they want from you? Saralin hesitated, then pulled a small, glowing crystal from a pouch at her waist. It pulsed faintly in her palm. They want this, she said. But more than that, they want to erase what we shared. They believe it's a threat. To who? To everything. Ethan frowned. Why? We were just kids. You don't understand, she whispered. My people don't form bonds with others. Not with humans. What we did back then. It awakened something. Something ancient. Something they fear. He stepped closer. What kind of bond? She looked up at him. Her voice shook. The kind that crosses time, space, memory. Ethan's head spun. You mean like destiny? She finished. The crystal in her hand glowed brighter as she spoke, reacting to her emotions. I tried to let it go, she said. Tried to forget you. But I couldn't. Every time I looked at the stars, I saw your face, and then I found out. The bond never broke. It only slept. Ethan stared at the crystal. So what happens if they take it? They won't just erase the bond, she said. They'll erase us, like we never existed. A chill ran down his spine. Saralin sat down on the cold floor, her arms around her knees. She looked smaller now, tired, alone. I was scared, she admitted, scared to come back. Scared you wouldn't remember. Or worse, that you wouldn't care. Ethan sat beside her. I thought I went crazy, he said. Everyone told me you were a dream, but I never stopped waiting. Not one night. Saralin's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I'm not, Ethan replied, because you're here now. They sat in silence, the bond between them flickering back to life. The crystal in her hand warmed. Suddenly, her wrist device beeped. They found the trail, she said, standing quickly. They're closing in. Ethan stood too. So what do? We go to the bunker, she said. You remember it? I nodded. The old research station in the hills. She gave a small smile. That's where it all began, and where it might all end. Ethan paused, then said, "Why do I feel like I know more than I should?" Sorellen looked at him carefully. "Because the bond is waking up inside you too," she said. "And soon, you'll remember everything." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Without another word, they slipped out of the cave, the blue shimmer fading. Behind them, they moved fast, staying in the shadows. And above them, the sky burned red with the light of enemy ships. But Ethan didn't feel afraid. He felt alive, because the spark was still there, and it had never stopped burning. The wind howled through the trees as Ethan and Sorellen moved under cover of darkness. Their footsteps were soft, careful. The path ahead twisted through the hills toward an old research bunker, one forgotten by most people on Earth, but not by Ethan. It was the place he had first met her. As they climbed higher, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what she said. A bond stronger than time. A crystal that could erase their very existence. It all felt impossible. And yet, deep in his chest, something familiar stirred. Like a dream waking up slowly. They reached a ridge and crouched behind a large rock. Below, the bunker waited half-covered. In vines, its metal door rusted with age. Sorellen scanned the area with a strange silver disc. A blinked green. "It's clear," she said. They ran down the slope and reached the door. Sorellen pressed her palm against the old panel. At first, nothing happened. Then the door let out a soft hiss and slowly slid open. Inside, everything smelled of dust and old wires. Broken lights flickered overhead. Ethan coughed as he followed her into the control room. "I haven't been here since." He stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence. "Since we made the bond," Sorellen whispered. She moved to the main console and placed the glowing crystal into a slot on the surface. Instantly, the entire room lit up with soft blue light. Holograms floated. In the air, star maps, alien symbols, old memories. Ethan stared in awe. "What is this place?" he asked. "It was a bridge," she said, "between our worlds. This bunker was used long ago to test human-visitor interactions. My people erased all traces of it. They didn't want the connection to remain." Ethan stepped forward, watching one of the holograms. It showed a younger version of him, laughing, holding hands with a glowing blue-haired girl. "Sorellen, I don't remember this," he said. "You will," Sorellen said softly. "The bond holds memories deeper than your brain. They're stored in your very being. They'll come back." He turned to her. "But why? Why us?" Sorellen hesitated, then pulled another image from the console. It showed two stars connected by a thread of light. One burned red, the other white. "There's an ancient belief among my people," she explained, "that across the stars, two lives can be tied by fate. When such a bond forms, it can change the course of reality. Some fear it. Others worship it, but the enforcers, they destroy it." Ethan frowned. "Enforcers? They are the ones who just attacked us," she said. "Not part of any government. Not from one world. They are guardians of time. They see our bond as a tier in their order." He took a deep breath. "And they'll keep coming until they destroy it." "Yes?" A sudden explosion rocked the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. A distant humming sound grew louder. Sorellen's eyes widened. "They've found us." She ran to the far side of the room and pressed a hidden panel. A small wall slid open, revealing a narrow metal staircase. "Come on." They rushed down into the darkness below the bunker. The staircase twisted deep into the earth until it opened into a hidden chamber. A silver pod, shaped like a teardrop, sat in the center. Its surface shimmered with alien light. "This is your escape plan?" Ethan asked. Sorellen didn't answer. She walked toward the pod and placed both hands on it. It opened with a hiss. Suddenly, Ethan clutched his head. Flashes, memories, Cyrillin's single quotes, S face. Stars falling. A war. A kiss in zero gravity. A promise whispered in a language he didn't understand, yet still knew. He stumbled back. "I'm remembering," he said. Sorellen turned slowly. Her voice trembled. "It's starting." Ethan looked at her, fear and wonder in his eyes. "We weren't just friends, were we?" "No," she whispered. "We were more." Another explosion above. The ceiling cracked slightly. Time was running out. "Once you enter the pod," she said, "your full memories will return. But so will your powers." Powers. Our bond awakens something in you, a spark my people buried in your kind long ago. It's why they fear. US together. The air trembled. Dust swirled in strange patterns. Something was coming down the stairs, heavy metal footsteps. Sorellen stepped between Ethan and the sound. Her hands glowed blue. "Go to the pod. I'll hold them." "No," Ethan said. "We do this together." He stepped beside her, his hand brushing hers. The crystal on the console above glowed once more, then stronger now. A deep voice echoed from the shadows above. "Step away, bonded ones, or be erased." Cyrillen's eyes blazed. Not this time. And as the enemy approached, Ethan felt something ignite inside his chest. A spark. A memory. A power ready to awaken. The shadows were here, but so was the light. Asterisk, the chamber trembled. The footsteps from above grew louder. Sorellen stood firm, her hands glowing with blue fire, eyes fixed on the stairwell. Beside her, Ethan felt a strange heat rising inside him, not fear, not panic, but energy. His heart pounded like thunder. And he could hear every sound clearer, every breath louder. The air shimmered around him. He turned to Sorellen. "What's happening to me?" "You're awakening," she said, without looking back. "The bond is waking your true self." Ethan stared at his hands. Small sparks flickered across his finger, tips white gold, like lightning waiting to break free. Then the enforcer stepped. Into view, it wasn't human, not even close. A tall figure made of black armor, its face hidden behind a mask of glass and metal. Long arms reached the floor. Its voice echoed again, deep and cold. "You were warned." Sorellen stepped forward, arms raised. "You have no right here," she said. "The bond is not yours to judge." The enforcer's body shimmered. It raised a weapon, something that looked like a spear, pulsed with red light. Before it could strike, Ethan stepped in front of Sorellen. "Enough," he shouted. The air cracked. A wave of light burst from him, slamming into the enforcer. The walls shook. The lights flickered. The enemy stumbled back, crashing into the stairs. Sorellen grabbed Ethan's arm, eyes wide. "You just used a force pulse," she whispered. "That's impossible. Humans can't do that." "I didn't try," Ethan said. "It just happened." The enforcer roared and launched forward again. This time, Ethan didn't move. His eyes glowed faint gold, and a shield of pure energy formed in front of them. The enforcer's weapon struck the shield and bounced off with a sharp crack. Cyrillen's voice trembled. "You've already matched me in one night." They looked at each other, both understanding the same thing. This wasn't just an old bond reawakening. Something bigger was unfolding. Something ancient, but they had no time to think. The enforcer recovered, raising its spear again. Sorellen and Ethan moved together. She sent out a wave of blue light, while Ethan punched the air, sending a second pulse from his hand. The twin attacks collided with the enemy. This time, the enforcer screamed a sound like grinding metal and disappeared in a flash of smoke. Gone, Ethan dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Sorellen knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're stronger than I ever imagined," she said softly. "And you've only just started?" He looked up at her. "What happens now?" "We run," she said. "Others will come." Ethan nodded slowly. "But where?" Sorellen hesitated, then looked at the pod. "There's a place. A hidden world. My birth home. It's where this bond began. Maybe it's where we'll find answers." Ethan stood, still unsteady, but determined. "Then, let's go." They moved to the pod. Sorellen pressed a button, and it opened. Inside, a soft white light glowed, warm and peaceful. She turned to him. "Once we leave Earth, there's no going back." "I've already left," Ethan replied. 10 years ago, when you disappeared." She smiled, real smile, not hiding anything. Then, gently, she reached out and touched his forehead. In that moment, a flood of memories returned, not just visions, but feelings, hiding together under alien moons, sharing stories in quiet corners of the stars, holding hands as they watched worlds burn and rebuild, kissing in a place with no name, where gravity didn't exist. The promise they made, "If we ever lose each other, find me again." He gasped and staggered. "I remember," he whispered. "All of it." Sorellen's hand trembled slightly as she lowered it. "Then you know what's coming." He looked into her eyes. "The Council, the Enforcers. They'll never stop. Not until the bond is broken." Ethan took her hand. "Then we never let it break." They stepped into the pod. The door sealed shut. Lights flashed around them. A soft humming began, rising in pitch. The floor shimmered under their feet. Sorellen closed her eyes and whispered something in her native tongue. The crystal core above them pulsed once, then launched them into the stars. The pod vanished into the black sky, leaving Earth far behind. But in its wake, a new storm began. Above the bunker, high in orbit, more ships arrived, dark, silent, watching, and from their command deck, a tall silver figure whispered to no one. "The bonded ones have returned. The prophecy is unfolding. Prepare the final seal." The stars stretched endlessly around them. Inside the escape pod, Ethan sat silently across from Sorellen. The chamber glowed with soft light, pulsing gently in time with the thrum of the ship's engine. Outside, space was calm. He knew peace wouldn't last. Sorellen touched a panel and a holographic map appeared, showing bright stars and shifting paths. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked. "Somewhere they can't follow," she said. "It's called Mirathan, a dead world to most, but it's sacred to my kind. It hides secrets even the Enforcers fear." Ethan stared at her. "You're not just any alien, are you?" Sorellen paused, then slowly shook her head. "I'm not." She waved her hand, and a new image appeared, her younger self, dressed in ceremonial armor, standing in front of glowing blue flames. "I was born to the flame-born line," she said quietly. "We were guardians of ancient bonds, protectors of forgotten truths. But we broke the rules when we met." Ethan blinked. "So, you're like a princess." She gave a faint smile. "Something like that. Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I didn't want you to love me for my title. I wanted you to remember me as the girl who got lost and found a friend in the forest." Ethan looked down. "I never forgot that girl." The pod shook. Lights on the control panel turned red. "They found us," Sorellen said, voice tense. "Locking onto our trail." Outside, 3 black ships emerged from the darkness, chasing them through the void. Sorellen slammed her palm against the console. "Hold on." The pod twisted sharply, diving between asteroids and cosmic debris. Ethan gripped the seat, heart pounding. One of the enemy ships fired. A red beam missed them by inches, burning through a chunk of rock. Sorellen's face was calm, focused. She moved like someone who had done this 100 times before. But Ethan wasn't helpless now. The crystal pulsed at his side. Reacting to his thoughts, he reached out hand, the ship responded. Panels lit up under his fingers. The pod moved faster, smoother, following his will. Sarah's eyes widened. You're connected now? Fully. I feel it, Ethan said. It's like the ship listens. She nodded, because it was made for those with the bond. Black ships gained on them. Ethan's thoughts sharpened. He imagined a sudden burst of speed. The pod obeyed. They surged forward. The enforcer ships fired again too late. Their beams tore through empty space. We're almost to the gate, Sorellen said. Hold steady. Ahead, a glowing rift opened in the black Nessa shimmering tunnel of light and color. A wormhole. A path to Mirathon, but one enemy ship followed them into the tunnel. The pod shook violently. Sorellen cried out as sparks flew from the console. Ethan turned, eyes glowing faintly. We have to lose them. I can't do it alone, she shouted. You're not alone. Together, they reached out, hands touching the main crystal at the center of the control panel. Their bond lit the chamber with a blinding blue and gold light. The pod spun, twisted, then vanished. The enemy ship followed blindly. But when it exited the tunnel, there was no sign of them. Nothing, just space. On the other side of the wormhole, the pod appeared above a gray planet, covered in swirling mists. Mountains of glass rose from the ground, shining in the pale light of a dying sun. Mirathon. The pod landed gently on a cliffside plateau. Ethan stepped out first. The air was cold but breathable. Strange floating orbs drifted in the wind. The ground shimmered faintly with ancient markings. This place, Ethan whispered. It feels alive. Sorellen walked beside him. It remembers. Remembers. What? She turned to him, eyes glowing brighter than ever. The first bonded ones, those who changed everything. They walked to a stone circle at the edge of the cliff. In the center stood a tall monolith, covered in symbols. Ethan stepped closer and stopped. His name was carved there, but not just his name. Ethan, Merrick, and Sorellen, a flame bound across time. Not by blood, but by fire. His hands shook. What is this? Sorellen placed her hand on the stone. This is why they fear us, she said. Because we're not the first, and we won't be the last. Ethan turned to her. What happens now? She looked out at the mists. We find the temple of the echo flame, and we awaken what they tried to bury forever. Behind them, the wind whispered, far above. Hidden ships watched once again, but this time, the hunters were nervous, because what they feared most had returned. The sky over. Mirathon was always gray. Not cloudy, just empty, like the color had been drained from it long ago. Ethan and Sorellen stood at the edge of the stone circle, the carved monolith behind them, staring toward the valley below. There, hidden beneath mist and stone, was there. Next step. The temple of the echo flame, Sorellen whispered. We need to reach it before nightfall. Ethan looked toward the swirling fog. What happens at night? Sorellen's eyes flickered. The echoes rise. They began their descent. The path was broken and steep, carved into the side of a crystal mountain. Strange lights blinked in the fog. Once, Ethan thought he saw a figure moving beside them, tall, cloaked in silver, but when he looked again, it was gone. They reached the valley floor. The air was thick, humming with silent voices that seemed just out of reach. I feel them, Ethan said, like someone's calling my name. They are, Sorellen replied. This place remembers every bonded soul who ever walked its ground. They walked in silence until they reached the temple gate. It was massive, 2 black slabs of stone covered in burning blue symbols. As Sorellen stepped forward, the symbols lit up and began to shift. The gates opened slowly with a deep groan. Inside, The temple was quiet, empty, timeless. Glowing vines curled along the walls. Pools of still water reflected flickers of golden flame. Hanging in the air like floating candles, at the center of the room stood a raised platform. And on it, a second crystal larger than the one Sir Rollin carried. It pulsed gently, like a sleeping heart. "This is the source," Sir Rollin said. "It holds all the memories of those who came before." Ethan stepped closer. "Can we use it?" She nodded. "If we're truly bonded, it will show us everything." They climbed the platform and stood side by side. Sir Rollin reached out and placed her hand on the crystal. "Now you." Ethan hesitated. Then slowly, he pressed his palm against the cool surface. The world shattered, not in pain, but in light. Visions flooded their minds, stars dying and being born. Alien cities rising from oceans, human explorers shaking hands with beings of flame and shadow. A history long buried. Ethan saw himself, not just once, but many times. Different versions, different lives, each one ending the same way. Standing beside Sir Rollin, reaching for her, and then being torn apart. "I've lived this before," he whispered. "Yes," Sir Rollin said. "Over and over." "Why?" "Because they erased us." Suddenly, the vision changed. Darkness, screams. Time being twisted like paper. A figure stood behind it all. Silver-skinned eyes like black mirrors. The Prime Enforcer. He was the first to break the bond, Sir Rollin said. And he made. Sure, no others survived, but we escaped. Just once. And now, we've returned. The vision faded. Ethan stepped back, gasping. "They erased everything," he said. "Not just memories, whole lives, whole timelines." Sir Rollin nodded. "That's what they took from us." Footsteps echoed behind them. They turned too late. A shockwave hit them both, throwing them off the platform. Sir Rollin landed hard, groaning in pain. Ethan tried to rise, but froze. The Prime Enforcer stood at the temple entrance. His voice was calm, motionless. "You were warned." Sir Rollin stood, arms glowing. "We remember now." "That is unfortunate," the Enforcer replied. "You must be unmade." Ethan rose to his feet, eyes glowing gold. "You've done that before. Not this time." The Enforcer raised a blade of red light. Sir Rollin launched a blast of flame. Ethan followed with a shockwave, but the Enforcer blocked both. He moved faster than anything. Ethan had seen appearing in front of Sir Rollin in a blink, striking her across the chest. She screamed and collapsed. Ethan roared and charged. The air split as he released a blast of pure energy from his chest. It struck the Enforcer, forcing him back. But the Enforcer didn't fall. "You're still weak," he said. "Your bond is not complete." Ethan's hands trembled. He could feel the power, but not fully. Something was missing. He looked at Sir Rollin lying on the floor, her light dimming. Then he understood. The bond was not just about memory or power. It was about choice, about love. He ran to her, kneeling beside her, holding her hand. "I choose you," he whispered. "Every life, every time. Even if they erase me again, I choose you." Her eyes opened. The bond flared. Blue and gold light exploded from them both. Rising into the temple ceiling like a star going nova, the Enforcer stepped back, shielding his face. "You are out of time," he growled. Ethan stood, his voice like thunder. "No, you are." The crystal behind them pulsed one final time. A voice echoed through the chamber, not alien, but something ancient. "The bond is awakened," and the fire returned. The temple trembled. Light surged across the ancient walls, burning with blue and gold fire. The Prime Enforcer raised his arm to block the glow, but even his armor began to crack under the force. The bond between Ethan and Sorellen had awakened, fully, and with it something older than time itself. Ethan stood tall, his body glowing faintly with energy. His eyes blazed like twin suns. Sorellen floated just behind him, her hair alive with blue flames. They were not just two people anymore. They were one bond, one flame, one truth reborn. The enforcer growled, voice no longer calm. You were meant to be erased. Your bond defies the natural order. Ethan stepped forward. You don't get to decide what's natural. You only fear what you can't control. Sorellen raised her hand. You've erased countless lives, but not this one. Not again. The enforcer swung his weaponaire red blade of pure distortion, but it passed harmlessly through the light surrounding them. They weren't bound by normal rules anymore. We end this now, Ethan said. The Prime Enforcer backed away. For the first time, he looked unsure. From the crystal above them, a final spark descended slow, bright and silent. It hovered between them all, spinning faster and faster. A voice echoed once again through the chamber. One must choose. To erase or to rewrite. Sorellen's eyes widened. The trial of flame, she whispered. It's real. What does it mean? Ethan asked. She turned to him. One of us must make the final decision. We can erase everything, the bond, the war, the enforcers, or rewrite the path forward. Ethan looked at her. But if we erase, won't we forget each other again? She nodded. And this time, it would be forever. He stared at the floating spark. The enforcer laughed bitterly. You will choose erasure. You always do. The pain is too great. The risk too high. Ethan closed his eyes. He remembered every life he had lived with her. Every version of them running, hiding, loving, losing, over and over. But now, they had a choice. He took Sorellen's hand. I'm tired of running, he whispered, and I'm tired of losing you. So am I, she said softly. He turned to the spark. We choose to rewrite. The spark flared blindingly, brightened, then collapsed inward. A shockwave of energy pulsed across the temple and far beyond. The enforcer screamed as the light touched him. His armor shattered, his form twisted. And then he was gone, dissolved into the past he had tried. So hard to protect. Silence fell. The air grew still. The walls of the temple no longer trembled. The symbols on the stones glowed steady and calm. Sorellen stepped closer to Ethan. Is it over? She asked. He looked around, confused. I don't know. Everything feels different. Then the crystal on the altar cracked from inside. A beam of light shot into the sky through the ceiling, through the clouds above, and far into the stars. For a second, the entire galaxy saw it. Back on Earth, people looked up and whispered. A cross. Colonies and stations. Old memories returned to people who never understood why they felt empty before. Lovers who had dreamed of someone they never met. Soldiers who remembered peace instead of war. Artists who painted faces they had never seen. The bond had rewritten more than just one life. It had rewritten fate. A week later, Ethan stood on a small balcony built from stone and crystal. Below, a new settlement was rising, humans and aliens. Working side by side, Sorellen stepped beside him. Dressed in a long robe woven with silver and blue. The council sent a message today, she said. They've agreed to open dialogue. He smiled. You think they'll honor it? They have to. The people are remembering. The lies don't work anymore. He turned to her. So, what are we now? It's just another love story that got lucky. She laughed softly. No, we're the first chapter of something new. He reached for her hand. I still remember the forest, he said. The night I found you. I remember the promise, she whispered. To find each other again. Above them, the sky began to shift. Clouds opened, and for the first time, in Mirathane's long memory, light poured down real. Golden light from a healing sun. Ethan smiled. They hadn't just survived, they had changed the future. Together.